Let's start with some commodity news. There's been yet another discovery of oil on the far eastern coast of Africa. This time it's in the Seychelles. This archipelago of about 115 islands is known for its pristine, untouched white sandy beaches and deep sea coral reefs. The country lays claim to more ocean, quite frankly, than land, and it feels like it's time to explore the resources that lie beneath those beautiful blue waters. As CCTV's Sumitra Naidu reports from the archipelago, exploratory drilling is expected to start early next year.
Seychelles is known for its beautiful beaches and coral reefs.
The Seychelles' biggest resource is its ocean, but beneath these blue waters lies an even more lucrative resource, that of oil.
The government has put on tender, international tender bids for companies who are interested in doing oil exploration in Seychelles. So this is an open bid in our ocean, and so far we've got two companies who has won the tender, and actually they are doing the studies and everything.
Exploration drilling is expected to start in 2014. Preliminary studies found that millions of barrels of oil lies in the seabed. Australian energy company WHL will start drilling next year. London-based Afren has also concluded a $28 million seismic survey to locate a drilling site.
Yes, there's been increasing interest in Seychelles as a potential oil country, especially with the discoveries on the Eastern African coast, as you know, Mozambique, Tanzania gas, Uganda, Kenya, Angola. So there is more interest now. We've recently entered into an open bidding round where we've invited foreign companies to bid for blocks. There are currently two companies working to start drilling, do the test drills by next year.
The World Bank is in support of the move and has agreed to loan the Seychelles $20 million. The IMF will also provide technical assistance.
We're taking this exercise seriously, but at the same time we're being very cautious about it. We're not giving much expectation to the people because we've also seen what oil does to.
An oil discovery will provide a massive boost to the Seychelles economy, but the prospect has raised concerns about the impact it will have on the natural environment and on tourism. The country currently derives 70% of its revenues from the tourist industry.
What the government has done is has brought in again the IMF and the World Bank to advise us on our laws and everything to do with if we do find oil, and that was already finished, materialized, and the government has agreed to the proposal that the IMF have done. The government has created a department that only to look after this oil exploration, so to make sure that there is people that they will have to adhere to environmental studies and all these kind of things.
The Seychelles has run out of land space, making the ocean the next frontier. The government believes that if the oil discovery is successful, there will be a flood of interest from the rest of the world. Sumitra Naidu, CCTV, Seychelles.
Let's move on south to labour matters. South Africa's labour unrest widened on Thursday as tens of thousands of construction workers prepared to down their tools next week. The National Union of Mine Workers, NUM spokesman Lesiba Sishoka, announced that about 90,000 members of NUM in the construction industry will go on strike come next week Monday. Now, the construction stoppage would affect major companies in the sector. That includes Wilson Bailey Homes, Ofcon, Aveng Limited and Group 5. Sishoka says the gold sector is also signalling its intention to call a strike over wages. Companies involved in gold production are therefore being squeezed between growing worker militancy over wage claims that have added to costs and falling bullion prices that are cutting their revenues at the knees. Now, earlier today, the Secretary General of the National Union of Mine Workers, Frans Beleni, said, and I'm quoting here, "The gloves are officially off. The battle lines have been drawn and the fight will be taken back to the mining, construction and Eskom oligarchy." Now, that's some pretty strong language right there. Let's find the motivation behind it. CCTV Sumitra Naidu is live in Johannesburg right now. She joins us now on the line from Johannesburg. Sumitra, talks between the mining companies, AMCU and Solidarity are still on, but NUM has essentially walked out of those talks. What's a deal breaker for them?
Yes, well, Rama, you know, the National Union of Mine Workers walked out of that meeting today, and as you mentioned, Frans Beleni, the Secretary General, having some really strong words for the companies, saying that the battle lines have been drawn now. Essentially coming out, comments, other comments coming through there, is that there's no point in talking any longer because between the Chamber of Mines, the companies and the unions, they're so far apart, there's no point talking any longer. So if you look at what the company is offering and you look at what the union is demanding, you would understand why he says they are so far apart. The Chamber of Mines is offering between 6 and 9%, and then you have the National Union of Mine Workers demanding 60% increases on wages. You have AMCU looking for up to 150% increases. Now you have to put that into context as well. If you look at that 60% increase, it would bring an average mine worker's salary up to 8,000 rand. So it's, you know, relative if you look at those numbers. But of course, this is what the unions are saying. There's no point in talking any longer. They are going back to their members and they're going to do a vote count for strike action. They're expecting to go on strike by the end of this month. If that happens, we, you know, the mining industry, the gold sector is in a lot of trouble already. The companies are saying that they have been heavily squeezed. The gold market has been very weak. They cannot afford to pay higher salaries. And of course, if the strike goes ahead, we stand to lose, the South African economy stands to lose around 340 million rand a day.
Indeed. Let's move away from the mining sector, however. We're seeing a similar standoff as far as wages are concerned on the auto sector, textiles and construction. In those particular sectors, what would it take to get employers and unions to agree to a deal?
Well, I think, you know, what analysts are saying is that, you know, companies also need to realize that inflation is rising. You know, union members, and not only union members, generally the workforce are struggling to work. And of course, you know, the companies are coming through with their argument that because of rising input costs, they cannot pay higher wages. And then the union is coming through and saying, we won't accept anything less because we are struggling to survive. We need to be paid more. So really, it's just maybe a compromise that needs to take place here. The NUMSA, the automobile sector, going into talks again late this afternoon. That meeting expecting to continue late into the night. And if you look at the textile industry in particular, this sector, it's not only about wages. You know, it's lacking capacity. It needs a lot of investment. This sector has been struggling for many, many years. So it's in dire straits at the moment. And of course, this kind of strike action just adds to it. But you know, it's just a matter of compounding all of these problems that's been building up over years. And of course, it's reached this tense standoff now where you're getting strong language from the unions because, you know, as far as they're concerned, they gave in. They did this compromise for many years already. They're not willing to stand down any longer.
Indeed. Seems like we're setting up the stage for a pretty vicious feedback loop here. We'll have to leave it there for the time being. That's CCTV's Sumitra Naidu live in Johannesburg, South Africa. Now, smallholder farmers in Malawi are starting to see some fairly positive results of a move to introduce structured trade systems into their agricultural sector. The Southern Africa Commodities Exchange, or ACE, provides a platform for farmers to discover the best prices for their produce, and it also has introduced a warehouse receipt system, which now essentially means that an entirely new arena of financing is available to small-scale farmers. CCTV's Peter Okabo was in Lilongwe. He talked to several beneficiaries of the program.
Alice Kachere is one of millions of smallholder farmers who call the Nantenje area south of Malawi's capital, Lilongwe, home. Today she's making a delivery of her entire year's harvest of maize to a warehouse belonging to the Agricultural Commodities Exchange. She is one of the few farmers who have embraced the new way of doing things and says she is now practicing agriculture as a business and reaping the benefits.
In the past years, we sell our produce to vendors, but nowadays we are selling our produce to foreign markets, not to vendors.
ACE as an organization has helped me in many ways. Previously, when I kept my farm produce in the house, it got destroyed. But with ACE, I can use their warehouse and the produce is well kept.
The Commodities Exchange says it plays a supportive role to farmers. linking them to markets and providing alternative buyers for their farm produce.
We are essentially trying to provide especially smallholder farmers and small traders with more options when it comes to marketing. So instead of having to go to their local trader or their local buyer in the rural bomas or markets, we're trying to provide them with options throughout the country and throughout the marketing period.
The exchange's storage space is secure and professionally managed. Farmers can limit losses and store produce until prices improve. High acceptance requirements also mean that farmers have standards of husbandry to attain, ensuring better quality.
We do test for moisture content. Normally we accept a commodity of 13.5% moisture content, that is. Though we have got our own standard moisture content, which is at 12.5%. Then after that we as well do a sampling. That is, in order for us to do grading, we normally take a sample for 200 grams. Then after that we do actually screen the 200 grams using the grading sieves which we have in the warehouse.
Financial access for farmers is also improved, as warehousing receipts can be used as collateral for loans.
It's an option for farmers who don't want to sell to access finance from the banks.
The program, however, has not been without challenges, ranging from lack of funds, poor infrastructure, wariness by farmers to skepticism by banks.
This is very much a work in progress, and getting the banks on board is challenging when it comes to something new.
Results, though, have seen a measure of success, and as they develop a pool of reliable farmers, a new range of services that includes forward contracts and bridging finance are now being explored. It is projects such as this one right here and the technology that is behind it that are driving the way forward for the improvement of the livelihoods of Malawian farmers, at the same time while taking a giant step forward for food security in Malawi. Peter Kabasisi TV in Natenje, just outside of Lilongwe, Malawi.
Fairly interesting idea. And there's several others in Africa, namely in Ethiopia. You've got commodities exchange there, and there's another being set up in Rwanda. Time for a short break. Here's what's coming up next. Embracing technology, Nigeria's commercial capital of Lagos scores a first with e-ticketing for its bus services. We'll have the details when we come back.
BIZAsia. Asia means business.
Hello, home. Hello, home.
17:45 GMT, you're watching BIZAfrica. Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta has met executives from China's Development Bank and discussed, among other things, the construction of a new port in the coastal town of Lamu, a fuel pipeline right across the region, and a road corridor that links Kenya, South Sudan and Ethiopia, best known by the acronym LAPSET. Now, the President and his team also discussed an upcoming technopolis being built just south of Nairobi in Konza. Energy, petroleum and other investment opportunities in Kenya, which Chinese companies can invest in. The Kenyan head of state has been in China from Monday. He has witnessed the signing of bilateral deals worth about $5 billion. President Kenyatta and his team also taken on a tour of the port of Tianjin as Kenya embarks on the construction of an entirely new port in Lamu.
We're very impressed by the efficiency and the transparency that we saw. And indeed, one big lesson that we take back home with us is the fact that transparency, efficiency in operation, reduction in red tape goes a long way towards encouraging or attracting investments to an area.
Let's take it to West Africa, specifically Nigeria's commercial capital of Lagos. It has launched an e-ticketing initiative for commuters using its bus rapid transport system. It's part of wider efforts to streamline that country's overburdened transport infrastructure. The teeming city of about 20 million people is Africa's fastest growing. It generates 70% of its revenue internally from taxation and public services like buses.
The bus rapid transit system was introduced in 2008 as one of the solutions to an ailing transportation sector and now caters for about 200,000 people daily. Over 100 buses ply different routes, and a dedicated lane for the BRT buses ensures an almost traffic-free commute. The e-ticketing service allows passengers to purchase an electronic card and top it up on the go.
It's a better alternative in the sense that sometimes one may be returning home late and the ticketers are not at the bus stop. You can easily board the bus. And as well, one can buy bulk. That is, at the end of the month, you can decide to buy a reasonable amount that will last you for the whole period.
Lagos Metropolitan Area Transport Authority, better known by its acronym LAMATA, is responsible for regulating the bus operations and says that e-ticketing and subsequent projects will reduce poverty by increasing economic efficiency and lowering transport costs.
Needed to bring a system that would make public transport interesting to them and to reduce so many things. So number one, it saves cost. Number two, it reduces people carrying money around. Number three, it allows we regulators to monitor what is happening. And number four, the operators themselves, there's a lot of cost savings there.
The cashless scheme costs commuters a minimum of 20 naira, just about 12.5 US cents, depending on their destination. Previously, commuters would pay upwards of 70 naira or 44 US cents. The buses are equipped with an automated collection system that electronically deducts the fare from the passengers' electronic cards.
We have a transport master plan for Lagos State, where also the cable car is there. So we are bringing in a gamut of public transport system that will make it easier for people to travel all around Lagos, and we're integrating it with water transportation as well. So you can travel, make use of ferry and rail, or ferry and buses, all of that together. And that is why the e-ticket is actually very much important.
But despite the challenges it has recorded so far, many residents say there are still challenges that need to be addressed. The Lagos State government is working on revamping the transportation system in line with the megacity project and a demographic explosion which it anticipates could reach a population of 40 million from the current 20 million in the next decade. Jane Kale, CCTV.
Right, positive news there. However, one of the markets you're just about to see doesn't have any shred of positive news at all, quite literally. The Nigerian All-Share Index was in the green earlier today, ending the day 0.6 higher. The All-Share Index in South Africa, despite the really lousy news we're getting on the labour front, ending the day high as well, up 0.27 percentage points. The Rand, however, not having that decent today, but that, of course, is the emerging markets currency story, isn't it? And the 20-share index in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi, ending the day lower by a third. The Kenyan shilling also getting hammered quite a bit in trading today. The Egyptian market ending the day in the green as well, up by about 2/3. That's business for you this Thursday. Back to Beatrice now for the sport.
Indeed. Time now for a quick look at the sports, the headlines.